It's Friday night. Do you know where your children are? Dozens of young people on bicycles stormed a 7-Eleven convenience store in Pico Robertson this Friday evening, stealing whatever they could get their hands on, including food and lottery tickets, stuffing their shirts and sweatshirts and pockets with the merchandise, ransacking and trashing the place in a matter of minutes. When it was over, the scene inside was disarray. The violent crowd scattered into the darkness as quickly as it arrived, with all of the criminal activity captured on camera and posted on social media. KTLA has covered several similar cases within the last few months. Often these types of mob scenes or blitzes will accompany a street takeover with dangerous stunts and reckless driving in an intersection. Victims and business owners are left grappling with deciding whether to clean up, keep going, and risk further turmoil or close down for good. A mob of thieves hit this same convenience store back in August.
Get that.
Rico!
You think it is appropriate to sign $50 million of spending to fight the Trump administration while also asking the federal government for $40 billion in fire relief aid?
Gavin Newsom's looking around and he sees the writing on the wall. There's no way he can get the Democrat nomination in this toxic mainstream media bubble. So he's branching out like Hillary. He's going on a listening tour. He's launched his own podcast and wants to talk to people with common sense now.
A few moments later.
So breaking news here. Apparently Gavin Newsom has finally crawled out of the dark hole he has been hiding in. And that's something I brought up in a video a couple days ago. I was like, guys, where is Gavin Newsom right now? Notice how we basically have not heard from the guy. Is he still even the governor of California?
I expected Newsom to put up some sort of resistance, like publicly give press conferences, but he hasn't said a peep, folks. On this issue since the fires, since the Los Angeles fires. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that Newsom hasn't said nothing?
Because ever since he was so publicly humiliated by the disaster that was the California wildfires, and of course being absolutely mocked and humiliated by Trump on that tarmac, he basically has been hiding away from the media cameras. You know, this is a guy who is supposed to be the 2028 Democrat frontrunner, and yet he is completely missing in action, likely because he knows it's a bad look for him, right? He's just completely embarrassed, he's completely disgraced, and he was essentially trying to go into the bunker, much like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did before him, and try to sit out the noise and reemerge. And finally, guys, he has reemerged.
Meanwhile,
we need to change the conversation. And that's why I'm launching a new podcast. And this is going to be anything but the ordinary politician podcast. I'm going to be talking to people directly that I disagree with, as well as people I look up to. Real conversations. What's going on with the cost of eggs?
flashback.
Thanks, Caroline. Just real quick, you mentioned the inflation executive order the president signed, but egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration in the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading to the shortage. So I will leave you with this point. This is an example of why it's so incredibly important that the Senate moves swiftly to confirm all of President Trump's nominees, including his nominee for the United States Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, who is already speaking with Kevin Hassett, who's leading the economic team here at the White House, on how we can address the egg shortage in this country. As for costs, I laid out the plethora of ways that President Trump has addressed saving costs for the American people over the past week. He looks forward to continuing to doing that in the days ahead. Thank you guys so much.
We're starting to see some prices go down as some of President Trump's policies have been put into place.
A good piece of news we just got in the last day or two is that the average cost of a dozen eggs has now gone down $1.85 since we announced our plan about a week and a half ago on February the 26th.
That is Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, who says the average price for a dozen eggs last week, $6.85. That is down from a national average of $8.15 the week before. Oil prices are also trending downward, now below $70 a barrel after averaging nearly $80 in mid-January. The national average for a gallon of regular gas, $3.08. A month ago, it was $3.14.
Flashback.
This is the governor of California, the great state of California, which he's destroyed the last 4 years under his reign. He's being asked, what happened for this $24 billion that you asked us taxpayers to fix homelessness? What happened to that money? Here's the exchange. Go ahead, Rob.
Doing enough to determine whether the money that's being plowed into homelessness is being well spent.
One of the vexing issues that was highlighted in the audit was local, and each city and county has different strategies and approaches. We've tried to level set that.
I'm sorry, Governor, I didn't hear responses to either of those questions. Do you acknowledge whether the money that the state isn't doing enough to ensure that the money is being well spent?
The audit did not surprise me. The state has advanced unprecedented investments, you're correct, and unprecedented interventions demanding more accountability with state money at the local level.
Yeah. What does that mean, buddy? Tom, what are your thoughts on Newsom and how he's being held accountable with the money and still doesn't give any answers?
Well, guess what? The questions that are being asked publicly of Gavin Newsom are the ones that are being asked privately by people that are leaking out all over the place about Kamala Harris. What you saw in the Kamala Harris campaign, you take a big stack of money, you give it to bureaucrats and politicians, and they spend it on micro programs and stuff. And there's consultants and there's skim all over that. We saw it in the Harris campaign. Take the billion in the Harris campaign that disappeared, multiply it by 20 over a couple of years. That's what's happening in California. There are consultants in that was lost. There are individual cities that each did things their own way, which was wasteful. You know, the whole point of a state government is to say, we're going to do it this way in every city, and you get some efficiencies like that. If you run a business like that, Pat, you ran an incredibly successful, great nationwide insurance, with one playbook for sales, you had everybody marching together doing it. That's not how it works. You could have a Republican city in Orange County, they get money. You could have a Democrat city in Santa Barbara, they get money, and then they do it themselves. And then they pay their own consultants. And it's waste and it's graft and it's a lack of leadership. And that's what he doesn't want to own up to.
And it seems to me that even as Gavin Newsom crawls out of hiding, he still understands he's not in a very good position and he seems to be in a desperate panic.
What are the impacts, real impacts to you around tariffs? What power does an executive order really have? And what's really going on inside of Doge? In the first few weeks, we're going to be sitting down with some of the biggest leaders and architects in the MAGA movement.
Stop it. Get some help.
Meanwhile,
Governor, why is it okay for you to take money from a felon?
And you know that the way you frame that is going to lead me to ask you to flesh.
Your office is aware of my question. I've tried to schedule time to talk with you about this.
I don't know what you're...
PG&E was convicted of 6 federal felonies in 2016. After that, you took more than $200,000 to help get elected. How should people trust you to be running the show to come up with the solution?
I wish you luck with whatever you're working on, but that's a strange question.
Well, I know it's a strange question. It's a strange time, but there's a convicted federal felon making campaign donations in this state to our duly elected leaders, including the speaker, who took almost $9,000.
Okay. Yeah, look, we're trying to focus on the
It's a serious question. You don't think people want an answer to that?
flashback.
Your criticism of Governor Gavin Newsom, are you willing to work with him, and do you believe believe that federal aid should be provided to California for as long as it takes.
Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that.
Meanwhile, I am Michelle.
And I am Craig.
And Craig here is my big brother. Together, Craig and I are going to take your questions about the challenges you're grappling with in life. Because let's be real, we are living through some really complicated and confusing times.
There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated.
Phase. We're in the public safety phase.
I hate to even ask this question. Elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't.
You are a disgrace.
I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden, and he had the backs of every single person.
A few moments later, 2,000 years later.
The news is, I'm a great grandfather as of today. Granddaughter. That's baby girl, baby boy. So I remember this day for a lot of
2,000 years later.
Community didn't play politics, didn't try to divide any of us.
One eternity later.
Why is our town burnt down? Why are our families' houses gone? And if you can explain that to us in a logical, reasonable way, we'll accept it. But right now, there is no explanation.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?